Urgently, NATO has launched a new game against Putin. At last, a super powerful weapon has been aimed directly at the dictator. It is already tearing through borders. The countdown has begun. A combined strike. Ukraine has set a course for the total destruction of the enemy at the front. The occupiers' logistics are in ruins. Our developments have impressed everyone. The whole world is applauding. A mega successful move. The Russians have fallen into a trap. All this in our episode of Hell Point. The Kremlin is feeling the heat. NATO has launched large-scale exercises right under Putin's nose. The situation is becoming even more tense. Finland is entering the game. This arsenal of super powerful weapons could be a serious slap in the face for the Russian dictator. Has the alliance really decided to act preemptively and deliver a crushing blow to the empire under the guise of exercises? Find out exclusively in just a moment.
International military exercises Southern Griffin 25 have begun in Finland. The maneuvers involve 1,600 servicemen from Europe and the United States. Since the beginning of August, Finland's Ministry of Defense has stated that starting from the second half of 2025, US troops are actively participating in exercises on Finnish territory and in the Baltic Sea, thereby strengthening their military presence. Little-known Russian sources are reporting on alliance exercises taking place right near Russia's borders. Top Russian propagandists, as well as the Kremlin, officially remain silent.
In recent years, Moscow has recorded unprecedented NATO activity near Russia's western borders. The alliance, expanding its operations, justifies this by the need to deter aggression. The Russian side has repeatedly expressed concern over the buildup of the bloc's military presence in Europe. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has emphasized its readiness for dialogue with NATO on an equal footing, provided that the West abandons the militarization of the continent.
The Southern Griffin 25 exercises involve NH-90 transport helicopters and MD-500 light helicopters belonging to the UTI regiment, as well as F-16 Hornet fighter jets in service with the Finnish Air Force. In addition, aircraft from the armed forces of various European countries and the United States will participate in the maneuvers. After Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Finland, in order to ensure its own security, joined NATO almost immediately. Now, exercises are held here on a regular basis.
The Russian Federation periodically raises the issue of a possible armed confrontation scenario with the NATO bloc and the new countries that have joined it. Specifically, this refers to Sweden and Finland. Let us recall at least the events when the so-called map of possible territorial claims by the Russian Federation against a number of Baltic countries appeared. Moreover, this involved the possible Russian control over the Swedish island of Gotland.
These exercises are part of the implementation of the agreement between Helsinki and Washington on defense cooperation, under which the American side gained access to 15 Finnish military facilities. In his recent interview, Finnish President Alexander Stubb stated that the militarization and preparation of Finland for a possible invasion will continue as long as the war in Ukraine persists.
As I have always emphasized, there is nothing we can do about our geography. We have a history with Russia, and we will have a future with Russia. But right now, of course, relations are very complicated. In fact, there are no relations because of the war. But one day the war will end. New relations will inevitably be built. Finland will restore relations with Russia only after the war with Ukraine is over. Putin has united Europe, expanded NATO by bringing in Finland and Sweden, and has effectively increased NATO's defense spending from 2 to 5%.
The Russian Federation has repeatedly voiced its territorial claims and its intention to protect Russian-speaking populations in the Baltic countries and beyond. That is why Finland and other neighbors sharing a border with the Kremlin are acting proactively. For now, Russia's main military resources are concentrated on the war in Ukraine.
Various dates are being mentioned. These include, of course, the significant year of 2026 and all subsequent later dates as well. Accordingly, the various NATO countries, specifically those closest neighbors, particularly those directly bordering the expansive Russian Federation or situated very nearby, are actively and diligently trying to replenish their essential arsenals with the specific types of advanced weapons and crucial military equipment that will effectively enable them to actively and robustly counter any possible future Russian aggression.
Recently, the US deployed 3 B-1B bombers to Norway for NATO exercises to practice coordination with allies, test combat readiness, and carry out a number of joint tasks. The Southern Griffin 25 exercises on the border with Russia will continue until September 12th.
A trump card of the Ukrainian armed forces has appeared on the battlefield, one the enemy never even suspected. The Kremlin is nervously silent as the most valuable targets and Russia's military leadership have become the focus. The Ukrainian defense industry has unveiled something that could turn the tide on the front lines. Attention! Ukraine's incredible weapon. It's already sending chills down spines in Moscow. You'll find out just how powerful and determined it is to eliminate the enemy in our upcoming report.
For the first time, Ukraine showcased its Long Neptune on Independence Day. The official portal Weapons of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has for the first time revealed the new Ukrainian missile Long Neptune with a range of up to 1,000 kilometers.
We are proud Ukrainians. We possess our cherished independence, and we also have the necessary defensive weapons.
The missile was developed based on the R-360 Neptune anti-ship cruise missile, which was once used to sink the flagship of the occupiers' Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Moskva, this is the first 2 holes she's listing to port. She'll capsize soon. I repeat, she'll capsize soon.
Compared to its anti-ship predecessor, the long-range Neptune is larger in size and has a greater strike range, and is also capable of hitting land targets.
The missile that was shown is longer and has a larger diameter. Well, since, let's say, the naval Neptune has a range of 280 kilometers and here it's 1,000 kilometers, they had to seriously redesign the fuselage. It should be noted that our engineers took the simplest approach. That is, they simply increased the geometric dimensions of the missile, thereby increasing the fuel capacity.
At the same time, a fake story authored by the Kremlin's troll factory leaked into the media. Supposedly, the Trump administration is halting the supply of Patriot, HIMARS and Hellfire missiles to Ukraine. The Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation assured that there is no suspension of aid. And most importantly, as of today, Ukraine is much less dependent on American missiles.
Why is Trump's potential blocking of ATACMS no longer as frightening for Ukraine? Washington may have overestimated the impact of American long-range missiles, while Kiev is strengthening its own defenses.
Ukraine's independence in conducting long-range strikes on Russian territory is the result of a significant increase in Ukrainian production.
Ukraine has successfully developed and is now mass-producing at least 2 very long-range, high-range, and highly effective drones. These are specifically the Lyuty and the FP1 FR1. These advanced unmanned aerial vehicles represent a significant technological achievement. Take the FR1 for example, it has a range of 600 kilometers. As for the Lyuty drone, its initial range was about 1,000 kilometers when the landing gear was fixed. Now with retractable landing gear and an increased fuel supply, its range is 100 to 200 kilometers.
The scale of production allows for the daily launch of about 100 long-range drones targeting military and energy facilities within Russia. Just in the past few days, Ukrainian drones have successfully struck the Syzran oil refinery in the Samara region.
That's it. Do you see it? I don't see it. Looks like that's all. This is the final one. That's it. That's it. Oh, wow. It hit, right? Yes.
As well as the significant Ust-Luga seaport located in the Leningrad region, Russia.
Take off the blue one. You can see it flying.
And of course, we can't forget about the Ukrainian pink bird, the winged missile Flamingo, whose appearance significantly changes the balance of power in the Russian skies.
And if we use the Flamingo, it can even reach Omsk. That means all Russian missile factories, 90% of Russian oil refineries, 90 and even more than 95% of Russian oil refineries, 90% of enterprises in the Russian military-industrial complex will be within striking range.
The main advantage of the Ukrainian bird is its simple production, a strike range of up to 3,000 kilometers, and a large warhead weighing 1,150 kilograms.
A hit by a missile like the Flamingo, yes, if a drone hits, it causes damage. If such a missile with explosives, with a warhead of 1,150 kilograms as stated, hits, then we're not talking about damage. We're talking about the complete destruction of, say, an oil refinery. There won't be anything left to repair or look for spare parts, just scrap metal to collect. And if it's an industrial facility, some kind of workshop, then you'll just have to clear the site and build a new workshop, because repairing it, there will be a crater 20 to 25 meters wide.
The fate of Russian oil refineries, military factories, airfields, and other defense industry facilities now depends little on Washington's opinion or position.
Secrets can no longer be hidden. The Rapid Ranger has appeared at the front, a new weapon for Ukraine that is already frightening the Kremlin. Its mission is simple: hunting enemy drones. In Moscow, they know very well that this death machine is a game changer. How exactly? Stay tuned. We're laying all our cards on the table.
This year, Ukraine and Britain signed a 100-year partnership agreement.
Together, we signed a landmark agreement, the first of its kind, a new partnership between the United Kingdom and Ukraine that reflects the deep affinity between our two countries.
The partnership agreement between the countries provides for strengthening ties, including in the area of security.
Ukraine and Britain are now closer than ever before. Today, we have reached a new level in our relationship, and it is even more than just a strategic partnership.
With each passing month, our relationship grows stronger and the support increases.
I must put Ukraine now in the strongest possible position so that they can sit down at the negotiating table. We are doubling our support.
£1.7 billion, which is about $2.2 billion from the United Kingdom, will go toward additional weapons procurement. The funds will be directed towards strengthening air defense. This decision was made by the Cabinet of Ministers. This was announced by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal.
With these funds, we plan to purchase Rapid Ranger air defense systems as well as lightweight multi-purpose SmartLit missiles. This will significantly strengthen our air defense and our ability to stop the enemy.
The Rapid Ranger anti-aircraft system provides high mobility and rapid response to threats. The target detection range exceeds 15 kilometers and the effective engagement range is over 7 kilometers. The system can be connected to any command and control system. A distinctive feature of this module is that it can be mounted on either wheeled or tracked vehicles. The Rapid Ranger weighs less than 500 kilograms. The system is equipped with 4 ready-to-fire SmartLit missiles, which will also be purchased from the UK. The lightweight multi-purpose SmartLit missiles weigh about 13 kilograms and have a 3-kilogram warhead. The SmartLit missiles have a range of 8 kilometers. The missiles are guided exclusively by a laser beam because they use a semi-active homing head.
First, it has a low speed. The operator has enough time to aim at the target, and it's not even necessary to track the target the entire time, right? You hold it for 3 seconds and the laser system locks onto the target. Next comes what is called automatic guidance. As it approaches the target, the guidance switches to infrared mode. Yes, so when it's close to the target, even the heat flow from a piston engine is already significant enough, and the missile will home in on its own. Even if the operator loses the target at some point, the missile will guide itself to the target.
The missile can strike various targets, from lightly armored vehicles to fortifications, drones, and both aerial and ground targets.
If, for example, a strike is planned against an armored target using laser guidance when firing, say, ground to ground, right? Oh, then you can use a missile with a shaped charge warhead. If it's against infantry, you can use a missile with either a thermobaric or a fragmentation warhead. If it's against a Shahed, for example, then obviously a typical anti-aircraft fragmentation warhead is used with specially designed preformed fragments.
This assistance is significant because thanks to the help from Britain and the air defense systems they provided, Starstreak, which are similar to the Rapid Ranger, the Ukrainian armed forces were already shooting down enemy Mi-8 helicopters back in 2022.
We were able to build a multi-layered defense, which includes short-range systems like MANPADS, as well as medium-range anti-aircraft missile systems such as OSA and Buk, and long-range systems like the S-300. By effectively combining these sophisticated systems and meticulously building a robust multi-layered air defense, we decisively forced the enemy to truly, seriously, and significantly back off because they suffered very substantial and considerable losses in their aviation capabilities and subsequently started to act much more cautiously and with greater circumspection. But at the very same time, their overall effectiveness dropped quite considerably.
On May 25th, Kiev and London signed a $1 billion arms deal. It was confirmed that the funds would be used to purchase foreign-made defense products and to acquire critically important materials, including products made in Ukraine. In June, the United Kingdom announced a record-breaking aid package for the supply of drones. We're talking about £350 million, which will allow Ukraine to receive 100,000 drones this year.
We are profoundly grateful to our British partners for their truly extraordinary and unwavering support, which significantly helps us move ever closer to achieving a just and lasting peace.
A living hell for the occupiers. Our forces ambushed the enemy with everything around rigged with explosives, The infantry received the order and is tearing the Russians apart in assaults. These battles will go down in history. Kremlin soldiers are frantically mining the territory, trying to buy themselves at least another minute of life. But the armed forces of Ukraine cannot be stopped. We keep moving forward. All the details are coming up.
The deeper we dig in, the longer we'll survive. That's it. Because drones now completely dominate.
And these are the realities of modern warfare, as told to us by a sapper from the NGU Rubish brigade with the call sign Mira. Right now, these guys on the Pokrovsk front are simply swamped with work.
Oh, there's so much work. First of all, there's a lot of work in our own area. Secondly, there's a huge amount of enemy remote mining, and that also needs to be cleared. First, we need to somehow clear the supply routes. Second, we have to defend the positions. And third, there's a ton of remote mining of all kinds near the positions as well.
So, it's a mission with an asterisk to reach the gray zone, where sometimes the enemy is less than 100 meters away, and clear those mines. And all of this happens under the constant threat of enemy drone strikes. Some munitions can be collected and taken to the training ground for further disposal. But in addition to neutralizing enemy hardware, the sappers of Rubesh also equip our own mines and munitions. And that's another huge chunk of work. After all, the enemy is constantly looking for weak spots in our defenses. And all those gaps need to be thoroughly filled with explosives.
We actually need a whole lot of mines. And we're not talking about 10 mines or even 100. It's measured in hundreds of mines. You could even say in thousands of mines.
The sappers explain that they always work with our infantry in mind, because if they properly set up the defensive structures and thoroughly mine the approaches, our guys in the trenches will have an even better chance of holding their position.
The better protected the position is, the calmer and easier it is for the infantry to work. That's it. That's why the engineers of our 1st Battalion do their job thoroughly.
The greatest support and motivation in this extremely difficult work, of course, comes from loved ones. The commander of the engineering and sapper unit of the Rubich brigade with the call sign Matvey has been at the front since 2014 and has served continuously ever since. He has gone from being an infantryman to a sapper, and throughout this long journey, it's the family that's always on his mind.
When your son will ask you a question, "Father, what did you do all this time?" And to say that I was hiding at home under my mother's skirt or that my grandmother hid me in the cellar, I just couldn't allow myself to do that. That's it. That's why I kept moving forward. Today, now that my son has grown older and started asking more adult questions, he really supports me in this. And that's the greatest motivation there can be.
You too can support the work of sappers and engineers on the front line by joining the brigade's fundraiser for electronic warfare equipment. After all, the biggest threat during every combat mission for the guys remains drones. You can make your contribution via the QR code or the card number shown on the screen. Yehor Romachlo, Dmitro Matvienko and Serhiy Marchenko, Fakti ICTV United News.
It started. There's a fierce mutiny in Putin's army. The autumn mobilization has turned into a disaster. Russians are packing their bags and fleeing because no one wants to fight. The Kremlin is in shock. They definitely weren't prepared for this. Is this already the beginning of the collapse of the so-called special military operation? All the details coming up next.
In Russia, draft notices are being issued online. No, don't think this is a story about the occupier country developing. After all, in some Russian villages, it's not just that they've never heard of the internet, they probably haven't even heard of running water.
Putin is genuinely afraid to announce a general mobilization, primarily because that could potentially be one of the very few, or perhaps even the absolute only significant reasons that could truly make people take to the streets in protest.
Online draft notices from the Kremlin are all about finding more ways to mobilize people and send them off to fight.
The issuance of electronic draft notices is primarily about significantly reducing the possibilities for legally challenging conscription or mobilization, thereby streamlining the process and minimizing potential delays. Because previously, it was absolutely necessary to physically deliver the official draft notice by hand, and if the conscript did not personally receive it, the legal validity and legitimacy of such a draft could be seriously challenged. But now, it's entirely sufficient to simply send it through the official government services portal, and that will automatically and legally mean the notice has been formally and properly delivered.
They send invitations to join the occupier's army, regardless of whether the conscript is registered in the government services system or not. Ultimately, this becomes the conscript's own problem.
Electronic draft notices are sent through the government services portal. So if a person doesn't have an account on the government services portal, they are still supposed to receive the electronic draft notice. Accordingly, there isn't much data on how many conscripts have created such accounts. But apparently this method is extremely useful for the military enlistment officers.
According to the law, an electronic draft notice is considered delivered 7 days after it is posted in the registry, and the recipient is automatically barred from leaving Russia. If the conscript fails to appear at the military enlistment office on the specified date, after 20 calendar days, additional restrictions are imposed on him. He is prohibited from obtaining a foreign passport, conducting real estate transactions, taking out loans, and registering as self-employed. An administrative fine ranging from 10 to 30,000 rubles may also be imposed on the draft dodger.
Recently, the legislation has been consistently tightening in this area. As we know, the draft has already become continuous, and so on and so forth. In other words, as we comprehensively understand it, Vladimir Putin is demonstrably running out of available manpower, which is precisely why more and more increasingly desperate new methods are being actively employed to prevent individuals from effectively avoiding being sent to the very front lines of the conflict.
In the summer, Russians began to receive mass notifications through government services about being added to the military register with electronic draft notices. In the mass mailing to those liable for military service, they were asked to log in and obtain a statement about their personal data. This is believed to be part of a possible preparation of the conscript database ahead of the autumn draft.
The Kremlin is doing everything it can to deny that it is using conscripts. Indeed, not that many conscripts are actually sent, but the thing is, there are numerous ways to force a conscript to sign a contract, after which he becomes a contract soldier and can be sent to war. Because the Russian army, if it differs from the Soviet one at all, it's mostly for the worse, since a person who ends up there has virtually no rights.
Putin ordered the creation of a unified digital registry of those liable for military service in Russia as early as the first year of the so-called special military operation. By April 2023, electronic draft notices were equated with paper ones, and restrictions were imposed on citizens who evade mobilization. This is precisely what is linked to the mass exodus of Russians abroad, which, according to various estimates, numbers up to 1 million people.
That's all for today. This was me, Darina Hutskalo. Even more breaking news from the front in our next episode. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you soon.